How would you characterize what you've seen in the last few weeks and months in terms of the talks that we've had between Vice Premier Liu He and his US interlocutors and where things stand on the trade front?
Well, first of all, it is very encouraging to see the Chinese leader, Vice Premier Liu He, and the American trade representative to start to talk with each other again. This bodes well for the future talks and negotiations between the two countries. And the trading balance is indeed something that we need to deal with. But the best way is not to cut down on trade from each country to the other side. I think the best way is to boost the total trade volume between the two countries from the current level all the way to about 1 trillion. But for the additional amount to be added to the trade volume, it is expected that the United States need to export more to China. I've personally also advocated a reciprocal zero tariff so that the American export to China will enjoy zero tariff on a reciprocal basis, of course, so that in that way, Chinese door of importing American goods will be on a zero tariff basis. This will be very good for American jobs and incentivizing every exporter in the United States to find a better market, larger market in China.
Okay, Victor, you talk about those zero tariffs. That's interesting. Give us some other concrete policies that Beijing might consider to try and rewrite this trade relationship.
Well, secondly, I would say Chinese import of energy, including crude oil and natural gas, is long-term and ever increasing. And the United States has all these resources. And I hope the future export of U.S. crude oil and natural gas will be significantly beefed up. We know for the past several years, Russia actually got a head start. They are now building up the pipelines, etc., lining up all the supplies to China. But I think America, if they really seize on the opportunity, open up the Chinese demand in this particular sector, it will be very good for the American people as a whole, and the demand in China will be long-term and very sustainable. Let's do the right thing to boost American export of resources to China.
Victor, it's been about 6 months, of course, since the new U.S. president. Can you give us your sense of where the relationship is right now overall, not just trade, and of course, that's ahead, of course, of the G7 as well?
Well, it seems that the President Biden's administration's attention is very much devoted to several other areas in the world, and China-U.S. trade and China-U.S. relations as a whole are very important, and I would say would demand a greater attention from the Biden administration. Now it seems better because the government leaders on both sides are starting to talk with each other. I hope they will accelerate, and I hope President Biden will need to tell the American people the real truth about several issues. For example, all the tariffs that the Trump administration started to levy against Chinese exports to the United States are not paid by the Chinese government, not paid by the Chinese people. They are paid by the American people, importers and consumers. Let's tell the American people the real truth. In that way, I think we can have a better handle in dealing with all the problems in China-U.S. trade, as well as in other areas. Pragmatism and realism are really needed in dealing with issues between China and the United States.
And people mostly talk about climate as perhaps the one issue that there might be the most in common between the two. And we talked about the possible common areas and common ground when it comes to trade. Is there anything, Victor, apart from those two aspects between this relationship that you actually see perhaps more progress these next few years? Let's put it that way.
Absolutely. I think we need to make progress between China and the United States, both on the international front as well as on the domestic front. On the international front, for example, climate change threats cannot be better handled by mankind as a whole without China-U.S. close cooperations. We are moving in the right direction, but we need to speed up and accelerate. Now, COVAX